Stellar Crown is shaping up to be a fantastic set, and today I wanted to run through another round of new cards from Stellar Crown that we're going to be getting in September. I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to start things off with the new Galvantula EX. This is a stage 1 Pokemon, 260 HP, lightning type, and it's got some really interesting attacks. Charged Web for 1 lightning and a colorless does 110 damage, and if the opposing active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX or Pokemon V, this attack does 110 more damage. And this is 120 or 220 is a really good number where you're going to be knocking out a lot of basic EXs and basic Vs. You could theoretically use something like Electric Generator to get this rolling on the first turn, though there are other cards in this set that help accelerate energy faster to these Terra EXs. Yeah, 220 is a good number, but you're not going to be knocking out stuff like a Roaring Moon EX, Iron Hands EX, or a Raging Bolt EX. You're going to have to use damage modifiers like Zapdos from Pokemon Go or Vitality Band to hit those numbers, but Charged Web is not a bad attack, especially with all of the different ways of accelerating energy to make this attack you can get off on the first turn. We also have Fulgurite for 1 grass, 1 lightning, and a fighting energy, does 180 damage, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon to get item lock on your opponent on the following turn. Having to discard all the energy really sucks, but item lock is great, and there are ways of getting that energy back a little more easier. Just keep in mind that we do have the new Ace Spec Sparkling Crystal that's coming out in the same set as Galvantula, which reduces the cost of attacks on Terra Pokemon by 1. We also have Crispin that lets us grab 2 energy from our deck, attach 1 to our Pokemon, our Terra Pokemon, and then actually I think it's just Pokemon. Yeah, it's just Pokemon. So you attach it to your Pokemon and then put 1 in the hand. So some great energy acceleration here to make both attacks, Charge Web and Fulgurite, easier to pull off. I still think that chaining grass, lightning, and fighting over and over and over again is going to be difficult and not consistent enough to make that your entire game plan, but it is a cool attack that could buy you a little more time. What I actually find more intriguing, though, is the new Joltik from this set, where its HP is terrible, but its battery charge attack lets you accelerate up to 2 grass energy and 2 lightning energy from your deck onto your Pokemon in any way you like. Theoretically, yes, you could power up a Galvantula on the bench or something like that, but off the top of my head, I was thinking Iron Hands EX, where the 2 grass and the 2 lightning pretty much give you amp you very much on the following turn. And there's probably other really good applications for this card, so I would keep tabs on this Joltik. I think it has potential to be a competitive card. Dash Bun EX is a new EX card, 250 HP. It has a okay attack in Wondershine. Okay, maybe it's not that great. 130 plus confusion for 2 colorless energy. It's not setting the world on fire at all, but its full-time meal ability is kind of cool. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may heal all damage from each of your evolution Pokemon. If you do, discard all energy from each Pokemon healed this way. We have seen this effect in the past, actually not that long ago. Cheryl rotated out, and it's basically this. It's Cheryl as a Pokemon, and Cheryl was good. There are a number of decks at the time that would play Cheryl. However, these are usually decks where energy discard is not going to be that big of a deal. So, this is going to be a situational card. A lot of decks can't run this Dash Bun, but it is an intriguing proposition for those that can. Something like, say, Dragapult with the Sparkling Crystal, where you only at that point you only need 1 energy to attack, or a Terra Greninja, where you can just discard that water energy and then just reattach, swing for another 170, grab the card of your choice. Stuff like that is where Dash Bun EX could potentially shine. But unlike Cheryl, this is a Pokemon, could be easier to set up, but it's also a 2-prize liability, so that's something you'll have to consider. And I'm not sure if this card is good enough, but at least is interesting. Lacey is a new supporter that we're getting, and we get to shuffle our hand into our deck when we play this, then draw 4 cards. That part's not very good. However, if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, draw cards until you have 8 in hand instead. I don't see this as like a 4 of in any deck, but I do think it's something in Roxanne territory where both of these cards activate when your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining. Roxanne only gets you 6 cards, but it does disrupt your opponent's hand and they get 2 cards only. Meanwhile, Lacey gets you 8 cards. And if you're just really aggressively digging through your deck, Lacey could be great. And Roxanne is also going to be out of the format in the following rotation. So maybe this just takes the Roxanne spot instead in the 2025 rotation. In right now, I think it's at least something to consider, though I'm not sure every deck is going to run this, but I do think its effect is good enough that we at least need to kick the tires on this one. Great Tree is a very interesting Ace Spec that does kind of allude to some cards we have seen in the past. It's also really wordy here, so bear with me. Once during each player's turn, that player may search their deck for a stage 1 Pokemon that evolves from one of their basic Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. If that Pokemon is now a stage 1 Pokemon, they search their deck for a stage 2 Pokemon that evolves from that Pokemon and puts it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then that player shuffles their deck. You can't use this effect on a basic Pokemon on your first turn or a basic Pokemon that was put into play this turn. So there are some limitations here versus something like, I think the card that it is alluding to is Forest of Giant Plants. This was a stadium you could run 4 of, and it just says each player's grass Pokemon can evolve during his or her first turn. He or she plays those Pokemon. Forest of Giant Plants allowed you to go from basic to stage 2 on the first turn of the game, but you had to have the rare candy and the grass Pokemon in your hand in order to do it. Great Tree lets you pretty much guarantee that you can get to stage 2 once this is in play, because it lets you grab those cards for you. However, it's an Ace Spec. You're only allowed to have 1 of these, and yeah, that part is a big downer. But I mean, for stage 2 decks that can have a tough time setting up, this is an absolutely phenomenal card. And there are some other great Ace Specs out there, but Great Tree is one that can definitely improve your consistency. So yeah, really interesting card here. I like this a lot. I like the fact that any stage 2 deck can run this versus Forest of Giant Plants, where it only affects a grass Pokemon. Every stage 2 deck can benefit from this, and I think this is a good card. We'll see if certain decks like Charizard can run so many different Ace Specs. We'll see if they use Great Tree instead. I think it becomes a more viable option in Charizard, specifically when cards like Lumineon and Forest Seal Stone rotate out of the format, and then a Great Tree looks fantastic. But there are other decks like a Meowscarada EX where Great Tree is phenomenal at getting set up, because the combination of Great Tree plus the new colorless card that lets you grab a stadium plus an energy pretty much means you can get on your second turn Meowscarada EX plus Double Turbo EX or Double Turbo Energy and just start swinging. And in that case, Great Tree is fantastic. So I think there is a ton of potential in this card. Orthworm EX is it's a little wonky. Basic 220 HP. Its attack Rock Tomb does 150 damage for 4 energy, which is not great. That's very expensive, 150. And during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. That can be kind of annoying, especially since a lot of decks don't run that many switch cards. Where it's really interesting, though, is the Kerpow Return ability. When this Pokemon is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if this Pokemon is knocked out, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. So you're swinging for 150, and if they attack back, they are going to take another 80 damage. If you've got 4 metal energy on here, nothing stops you from putting even more energy on there, so you could do even more return damage that way. And of course, because we are playing this as a metal type, we can pair this with the Metang from Temporal Forces that helps us accelerate energy by looking at the top 4 cards of your deck and attaching metal energy that you find there any way you like. So very obvious combination here that could make this at least interesting. And something to keep in mind here is that the ability does work even if your Orthworm is on the bench. Tuan Lei, who does a lot of the translations, has cleared this up. You don't have to be in the active. So something like Dizzying Spin from Oh, I cannot remember the name of this Pokemon off the top of my head, and it's the Japanese art too. Is it Spinda? That's it, right? Does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So now you are going to take 80 damage from this Earthworm here in the active, plus another 80 from, yeah, 80 times 3, 240 from all of these on the bench. So even something like a Radiant Greninja, if you've got 5 energy in play, well, no, it could, you're gonna need more energy than that. But something like a Radiant Greninja might want to think twice about sniping an Earthworm, because you're going to take a bunch of damage back from both of those. So in that sense, this could be cool. I definitely want to try this out and see if it's any good. Raging Bolt. My Raging Bolt EX is a very popular Pokemon right now, and this could be something you tech in there. Lightning Storm for a lightning and a fighting energy. Does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So you could do at least 60 snipe damage because it just says one of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can hit the active or the bench. I don't think this is really enough damage, and you don't want to put a lot of energy on this Raging Bolt because you really want to be powering up Raging Bolt EX. So like maybe you get 90 on there. I don't know, but I don't think this is good enough of a attacker to tech into a Raging Bolt or any other deck for that matter. We also have a new Iron Boulder. This one could be, I was going to say could be cool, but for lightning or for a psychic and a colorless energy, does 170 damage. And if you do not have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, this attack does nothing. We have seen this. We have seen this effect on Ninetales EX from Scarlet Violet 151, and that card is not good. Because getting your hand to match your opponent's hand is an incredibly difficult feat to do consistently. And maybe one time you'll get it and you'll get 170 damage, and even then, at best, you're knocking out Squawkabilly and Lumineon. I don't think this is worth it. We do have Gravity Stone. This is a new tool card where if the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, the retreat cost of both active Pokemon is +1 more. And forcing your opponent to have a tougher retreat could be good. Off the top of my head, like just any deck running Spidops could benefit from this. But Gravity Stone, I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, I did prepare for this. We do have a new Talonflame where its Arrow Chase attack does 110 damage. And if the retreat cost of your opponent's active Pokemon is 2 or more, this attack does 110 more damage. So 220 on a non-rule box Pokemon is great. But Talonflame at 140 HP and a stage 2 Pokemon is terrible. So this combo right here, like theoretically, yeah, it could be okay. But realistically, no one's going to play this Talonflame. It's just not good enough. Its HP is too low relative to a stage 2. But there could be some other good uses for Gravity Stone. If you've got some good ideas for Gravity Stone, let me know in the comments of this video. We've got a new Kling Klang where its emergency spin ability lets you put it on the bench like without having to evolve up to it if your opponent has a stage 2 in play. And then its attack, Hypersonic Beam, for 130, does 130 damage for 2 colorless energy, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. I think this only really works against, say, a Chen Pao deck. They put back Excalibur on the board, then you can play Kling Klang and one-hit KO a Chen Pao with the Kling Klang. I think this feels a little too situational to be good, but we'll have to wait and see. Like, I think 130 damage is not good enough in and of itself. You really want to be hitting for weakness here, and right now it's really just Chen Pao. I guess theoretically you could one-hit KO the new Lapras as well, but I don't know if that's going to be popular enough either. I don't know. We do have a new Slowking, which is a very memey card, and I think people are going to absolutely experiment with this because of its inspiring challenge attack. For 1 Psychic and 1 Colorless, discard the top card of your deck. If that card is a Pokemon without a rule box, choose one of that Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. You can play something like Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking in order to guarantee the Pokemon of your choice on that top deck. I don't know all of the non-rule box attackers that you could be using in this spot, but it does feel like a fun deck to experiment with. Nevertheless, you could throw this in Gardevoir, and Gardevoir can power this up in 1 turn. I don't know if there's enough non-rule box attackers to make this a thing, but it's definitely something that is memey at best, or memey at least. We do have a new Charjabug. It's a stage 1, 80 HP, and its lineup attack for 1 lightning energy lets you search your deck for up to 3 Charge-a-Bug and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. We have seen this. There was a Kirlia that just rotated out with Mirage Step, and this is basically Mirage Step, but for Charge-a-Bug, and it pairs really nicely with the Vikavolt from Temporal Forces, where for 2 lightning energy, you do 120 damage plus 80 more damage for each of your benched Charge-a-Bug. So this could potentially make Vikavolt a little more viable of a deck. I'm not sure if this is really... I mean, the Charge-a-Bug with the Mirage Step is great, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. This is a stage 2 with only 160 HP. It does hit like crazy, though, and you can use stuff like Electric Generator. You know, maybe I'm not giving this enough credit. It could be kind of cool. Caracosta is the last card we're going to look at today. It's a stage 2 that evolves from Tortuga, and Tortuga evolves from a fossil, and fossil cards are notoriously difficult to evolve up. However, it does have a great ability with Primal Knowledge, where your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active evolution Pokemon. Now, it's plus 30 damage is great, but it has to be an evolution Pokemon you're hitting. That's not so great. I'm not sure that it's worth the effort of setting up a fossil Pokemon for plus 30 damage, but plus 30 damage is really nice, though. So, maybe. I have a feeling it's no, but maybe. That's going to do it for this round of cards. Again, Stellar Crown is looking fantastic. I can't wait to get these cards in September. And what about you? Are you excited about this set? What is the card you are most excited for? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at @InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at @InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.